Scattered across the world are a handful of communities where reaching 90, healthy, and clear is far more common than almost anywhere else. Researchers have studied what fills their plates for decades. And the strange thing isn't how special their food is. It's how ordinary it is. What they share isn't a secret ingredient. It's a pattern most of us were never taught to notice. Before we go any further, one gentle note. This is general educational information about what researchers have observed, not medical or nutritional advice for your particular body. It's not a substitute for your own doctor or a qualified professional who knows your health. Think of the next few minutes as a calm look at what the science has noticed, not a plan you have to follow. Now, let's go to those places. In the early 2000s, a researcher named Dan Buettner, working with National Geographic and a team of demographers, set out to map the parts of the world where people live the longest, healthiest lives. They found a small number of regions and marked them in blue on a map. The name stuck. People started calling them the Blue Zones. Places like Sardinia in Italy, Okinawa in Japan, Icaria in Greece, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and a community in Loma Linda, California. Now, here's what's important. These communities are spread across the entire planet. Different languages, different cultures, different foods on the table. And yet, when researchers looked at how they eat, the same quiet patterns kept appearing, again and again, in places that had never heard of each other. So what are those patterns? Let's walk through them gently, one at a time. The first, and the one researchers mention most, is simple. Most of what they eat comes from plants. Not all of it. This isn't a story about giving anything up, but the foundation of the plate, meal after meal, tends to be vegetables, beans, lentils, whole grains, greens, fruit, nuts. In the Blue Zones research, beans in particular show up over and over, a humble, quiet cornerstone of these long-lived tables. Buettner's team has described beans as perhaps the most important longevity food in the world's oldest communities, whether they're the fava and chickpeas of the Mediterranean, the black beans of Costa Rica, or the soy foods of Okinawa. Different beans, same quiet role, on opposite sides of the planet. And it's worth pausing on how unremarkable that is. Beans are cheap. Beans are ordinary. Beans are the kind of thing that has never once been marketed as a miracle. Yet there they are, at the center of the plate, in nearly every place people tend to grow old and stay well. And notice what that means. The center of the plate isn't something exotic or expensive. It's the kind of food that has fed ordinary families for centuries. Buettner has often pointed out that the longest-lived people aren't eating rare superfoods flown in from far away. They're eating what grows nearby, prepared simply, the way their grandparents did. This overlaps with something scientists have studied under a different name, the Mediterranean way of eating. You've probably heard of it. Its heart is much the same. Plenty of vegetables and legumes, whole grains, olive oil is the main fat, fish in some places, and only modest amounts of red meat. It's worth noticing that fat isn't the villain here. In much of the Mediterranean, olive oil is poured generously, and it's associated in study after study with the region's pattern of healthy aging. This was never a story about eating less of everything. It's a story about the kind of foods that make up the everyday plate. Major health authorities, including the World Health Organization, have long encouraged a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains, and lighter in heavily processed foods and added sugar. What the Blue Zones show is what that looks like when it isn't a diet at all, but simply how a place has always eaten. And this is the quietly remarkable thing. Nobody designed these diets. There was no committee, no plan, no health campaign. These are just the foods that generations of ordinary people happen to have, cooked the way their families always cooked them. The fact that such distant, unconnected cultures landed on such similar patterns suggests these aren't fads at all. They're closer to something time-tested, arrived at slowly, by many different people, without anyone trying. Which brings us to the second pattern, and it's an easy one to overlook. It's not just what's on the plate, it's how much. In many of these communities, people tend to stop eating when they're comfortably satisfied, not overly full. In Okinawa, there's an old phrase sometimes translated as a reminder to eat until you are about 80% full. It isn't a rule anyone counts. It's a gentle cultural habit of leaving the table content, not stuffed. And it happens without effort, because the meals are unhurried and shared. When you eat slowly, in good company, your body has time to notice it's satisfied long before a plate is scraped clean. The fullness arrives gently, and you stop, not because you're depriving yourself, but because you simply feel done. Compare that to eating quickly and alone, where it's easy to finish far more before your body ever gets a chance to say enough. The pattern here isn't willpower, it's pace. That word, shared, is the third pattern, and it may be the most surprising one, because it isn't about food at all. In the blue zones, meals are rarely eaten alone, quickly, standing at a counter. They're social, slow, a time to sit with family, neighbors, friends. Food is woven into connection, into belonging, into the rhythm of the day. And researchers who study longevity increasingly believe that this, the warmth around the table, is not a side note. It may be as much a part of the picture as the food itself. Think about what a shared meal actually is. It's connection, unhurried time, a sense of belonging, the feeling of being known. Those are the very things that research on healthy aging keeps returning to, again and again, quite apart from nutrition. So when these communities gather to eat, they may be nourishing something beyond the body. Here's a gentle question to sit with. When did you last eat a meal slowly, with people you care about, in no rush to leave? There's a fourth thread, quieter still. In many of these places, food follows the seasons and the land. People eat what's fresh, what's local, what's in front of them. Not because a plan told them to, but because that's simply what's there. Less that comes from a package, more that comes from the ground, or the garden, or the market down the road. It's worth sitting with how different that is from the way many of us eat now. So much of modern food arrives already made, already sweetened, already wrapped, designed to be fast and constant. None of that makes anyone a failure. It's simply the water we swim in. But the contrast is quietly telling. The communities that tend to age well aren't eating the newest thing. They're eating the oldest thing, the plainest thing, the thing that came from nearby and took a little time to prepare. And they're not doing it out of discipline. They're doing it because, to them, it's just dinner. Now, it would be easy to hear all this and feel like you've just been handed one more set of rules. So let's be clear about what this is not. This is not a diet. There's no forbidden food here, no counting, no shame, no perfect way to do it. The blue zones aren't full of people restricting themselves and white-knuckling their way through meals. Quite the opposite. They eat with pleasure, with company, with bread and wine in some places, with the foods of their culture. What research associates with their healthy aging isn't restriction. It's a warm, plant-rich, unhurried, shared way of eating that never felt like deprivation in the first place. And that's the part diet culture almost never tells you. The eating patterns that studies keep linking to aging well look less like a strict regimen and more like a good, slow dinner with people you love. Now, a careful word, because your body is your own. Everything we've talked about here is a broad pattern observed across whole communities, not a prescription for any one person. Your nutritional needs depend on your health, your medications, and your history, things no general video can see. So if you have a medical condition, take medication that interacts with food, or are weighing a real change to how you eat, that's worth talking through with someone who knows the whole of you. This matters most if you've noticed something that concerns you, unexplained weight changes, an appetite that's dropped off, digestive trouble that lingers, or a new difficulty with eating. Those aren't things to sort out from a video. Understanding the general pattern isn't about ignoring your own body. It's about freeing you from the noise, so you can pay attention to what actually matters, including the signals that deserve real care. So where does all this leave you, standing in your own kitchen on an ordinary evening? In a gentler place than the diet noise would have you believe. You don't need a rare ingredient or an iron will. The patterns researchers keep finding in the world's longest-lived communities are humble ones. Lean toward plants. Let beans and vegetables and whole grains take up more of the plate. Stop when you're comfortably satisfied. Slow down. And whenever you can, share the meal with someone, because the table was never only about the food. None of this is a promise. Nobody can hand you a guaranteed number of years, and anyone who claims to is selling something. What the science offers is quieter and more honest. These are the patterns linked, again and again, to communities that tend to age well. What you do with them, in your own kitchen, at your own pace, is entirely yours. If this brought you a little calm, there's a good chance someone you care about is just as tired of the diet noise as you were a few minutes ago. Consider sending it their way, not as advice, and not because they're doing anything wrong, but as a small piece of reassurance that eating well was always meant to be warmer and simpler than they've been told. Then come back and tell me, in the comments, what a good, unhurried meal looks like where you're from. I read them, and I love seeing the tables people describe. One last time, gently, because it matters. What we've talked about today is general information about patterns researchers have observed, not medical or nutritional advice for you. Before you make any real change to how you eat, especially if you have a health condition or take medication, talk with your own doctor or a qualified professional who can see the whole picture. Let them help you take any next step safely. Because the best table, in the end, isn't a strict one. It's a warm one. Plants at the center, people around it, and no rush at all to leave.